I'm Jade of Jaded Reader, and today I am doing another recent reads video. During my break, I was reading a lot of books. I actually haven't read this many books in this short period of time in a while. It really made me wonder how much booktube is actually interfering with books. That's a thought for another day. As of right now, I'm back and I really have enjoyed a lot of books I've read, so I'm here to bring them to you and to your attention. The first book I'd like to talk about is Clap When You Land by Elizabeth Acevedo. Clap When You Land is Elizabeth Acevedo's newest book, and it is so good. I have actually not heard a negative thing about it, and I'm really happy that people are enjoying it as much as I did. I read this for Jesse's Queer Blackathon 48-hour readathon, and that was to read as many Black queer books as you could in 48 hours. I did bypass this, it was more like 52. The point being, I participated, I had lots of fun, and I read some really amazing books that I'm really excited to talk about. I will, of course, also have content warnings down below, listed like a medication commercial, so if you are trying to check in to see if this is the right book for you, I hope while this list can't encompass every content warning that I am able to warn someone if it is needed. So if you're interested, keep an eye out for the tag down below. Clap When You Land is another one of Elizabeth Acevedo's stories in verse. So you have two girls coming from completely different backgrounds. One is in New York, the other is in Puerto Rico, and while at first you don't realize what is connecting these two together, there is a plane crash and their one mutual father is on board. This was such a touching and heart-wrenching book dealing with immigration, second families, and covers so many topics having to do with adversities that Puerto Rican women and immigrants face. I loved the dialogue and the raw emotion that were coming from these two different characters as they navigated both their grief as well as an acknowledgement of who their father was. It really peels back quite a few layers having to do with family dynamics, and there's just so many unique things that go on, and the way Elizabeth Acevedo speaks and gets her words across is just gorgeous. I did listen to this on audiobook, and Elizabeth Acevedo does narrate one of the two perspectives, adding a lot of power and oomph. I've said it before and I'll say it again, if you can listen to her on audio, I highly recommend it because it is a journey in itself. She puts so much power behind her words that already have so much meaning, and it's a good time. I didn't know until the end of this book, it is based off of a plane crash that did happen after 9/11 from New York to Puerto Rico, in which many family members who were returning home lost their lives. This, of course, added more impact to the story as well as brought awareness to me, so I really appreciated this bringing it to my attention and that I was able to find out more. Speaking of finding out more, so I listened to both White Rage by Carol Anderson and White Fragility by Robin DiAngelo. This was for the Blackout buddy read hosted by Shae, whose channel will be linked down below. It became increasingly obvious as the booktube community began to speak on Black Lives Matter that there is a strong white ignorance that is running throughout this community. Shae used her educational background to educate individuals such as myself. I, for one, had a loose interpretation of some of the things that were in White Rage, but I did not have a firm understanding of just how in-depth systemic racism is in America and how much our world is built upon it. This was incredibly eye-opening to me. However, I still have a lot to learn, and I plan on reading more anti-racism material to further educate myself. And I highly recommend you going down to Shae's live show video where she beautifully leads in a discussion having to do with this book. Now, while White Rage was written by a Black individual, White Fragility is written by a white author and gives a white perspective on white privilege. And I only chose to pick this book back up after listening to several individuals' takes on White Fragility and what it's for. I will have Shae's video listed down below where they speak specifically on White Fragility, and I'm not going to lend my own voice to this discussion as I don't believe that it is my place. I am here to listen. I did give White Rage 5 out of 5 stars on Goodreads in order to help promote people reading it, but I didn't rate it in a traditional sense, just put it forward as support. White Fragility, I have left with no rating. I would say that White Fragility is a beginner guide to understanding what white fragility and white privilege is, and that it's in no way a stopping point whatsoever. It's simply opening the door. It is then your job to walk in and to listen to other perspectives. That's what I'll be doing. I wanted to make sure to give these a shout out, and to Shae, who gave so much time and energy to this. I really do thank you. I learned so much and I will continue to learn. After that, going back to Jesse's Queer Blackathon 48-hour readathon. Wow, that is a really long title for a very short amount of time. I also read The Deep by Rivers Solomon. It is so beautifully written and so impactful and powerful. And I highly recommend listening to the song that inspired this novella. It is called The Deep and it's by Clipping. It is a terrible true story that is then lended to a legend. This story follows the main character Yetu as the traumatic history and ancestry is passed on through generations to one individual who then annually shares this history with their people that was birthed through the trauma of the slave trade and pregnant women who were thrown off board. And then everyone in the family then loses the memory, leaving Yetu alone with these memories. Yetu goes on a quest for self-discovery, and it's just a really beautiful conversation, discussion, and story having to do with self-discovery, identity, sexual identity, as well as exploration, and family dynamics. I ended up giving The Deep a 5 out of 5 stars. It was the quickest 5 out of 5 stars I've ever given. I listened to the song both before and after the book, and I can just say it is powerful either way. So if you haven't listened to the song yet, definitely look it up and take a listen. You may have noticed that I have been reading a lot of audiobooks lately, both in this video as well as my past recent reads, and that is because I'm actually on a book buying ban. I'll be covering it more in my goals video, which I don't think should be up yet because I haven't filmed it yet, but who knows what scheduling Jade will have in mind. But yeah, I have put myself on a physical book buying ban, but there are too many books that I really want to read. This is not to save money, but to save space, as I am still planning on moving to Japan in September. If that changes, I will let you know. I know the world is not great right now, but as of right now, I'm still moving forward with that, and that means I have too many books. Yes, I do want to own The Deep specifically, physically. It is such a beautiful cover, and I know this PNG that I found online is not doing it justice. Eventually, I'll have a video out covering all of the books I need to own physically that I loved, because there are too many, and The Deep is definitely one of them. Oh, speaking of books I own physically, I have one more book in my recent reads that I want to cover. I don't know if this video is going to do it justice, because I'm still reeling at how much time I have spent on this book. I started this book June 1st in a buddy read with Olivia Savannah from Olivia's Catastrophe and Soleil from Little Reader's Corner, and we started this book June 1st and didn't finish it until way into July. I am talking about Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Boy, did I spend a lot of my life on this book. This huge, gigantic, behemoth, leviathan of a book. Ugh. Guys, I'm not happy. And I know, I'm gonna say right off the bat, I gave this book 2 stars, and you might be mad, you might be like, this is an unpopular opinion I do not agree with. Just know I'm more upset than you are, because I had to spend this much time reading this book and I still had to give it a 2-star rating. The denial was real when I finished it. I closed this book and I went, no, 5 stars. I spent an entire month and a half on a 5-star read. A 4.5. It was worth it. It's not true. I couldn't give it anything more than a 2-star. I halfway through thought it was a 3 and didn't know what to do with myself. This book is a mess. There are so many good ideas and concepts in it. There were good moments in it. I would have a chapter of hope and then 3 chapters of despair. I would wonder, what is going on? Who is that person? And then turn around and be like, wow, what good character development. It just was all over the place, and I could not get over how many things were just not making sense. It wasn't adding up, and I was really, really disappointed. Though I will say, Olivia Savannah, Soleil, and I had a really good time on Voxer talking about this book chapter by chapter and really just digging in deep to our feelings. This felt like such a missed opportunity, but let's get into what is the plot, because I will give you my best interpretation of several different plots, because I feel like this is like 3 different stories and none of them matched up very well. I wish that this would have actually been shorter by about a third or spread out into about 4ths. This is about a queendom that somehow still suffers from sexist, misogynist ideologies where a queen must bear a child and the line must continue on. Yes, it favors the fact that the heir must be female, that's not enough. That's not enough, and the people who are actually ruling and in charge here, it's not as out there as I would have liked, and I still haven't gotten to the summary. Okay, we have two different stories going on in the East and the West. There are dragons drenched throughout this book, and every dragon is a powerful, cool moment. Let me get that out of the way first. As far as dragon loving goes, I felt the love for dragons in this book. This is a good dragon book, but you really have to get through the gunk to get to the dragons, and it was too much work for me. You have the East and West. One has the kingdom of Innis in it, and Innis hates dragons. They have a legend where a great and powerful hero saves the day, saves the damsel in distress, and he becomes this ultimate god to them. They absolutely hate dragons, all types of dragons, and they have a queen who is said to be descended from this hero. On the other end, we have a kingdom that loves and worships dragons and has a love for these types of water dragons that are used in battles and training and wars, and a character who is trying to become a dragon rider. Sounds all good, right? Yes. Those are the plot points that are absolutely fantastic. Getting to all of the juicy things that fill this story up is really difficult. There are really long training sequences. There are names and people and moments that don't matter and we don't end up coming back to. I had so many things memorized in my head as I read this, and then every time they didn't come to fruition, we didn't double back, we didn't need it, it drove me to the moon. I was constantly being like, oh my gosh, that never led anywhere. Oh my gosh, we didn't do anything about that. And then on top of that, there were other moments that I didn't remember or that were mentioned really slightly and weren't highlighted that led to big moments where I was like, wait, who? It just took forever. The sapphic love story in this is really fun and good. It's picking through to get to it, and every time it got to it, I was like, oh yeah, we're here. This is good. This is spicy. This is sweet. And then it would like dwindle away and I'd have to wait another 100 or so pages for it to come back again. Do I sound exhausted? I am. I cannot wait to hear both Olivia Savannah and Soleil back me up on this because I'm so tired and I am so annoyed and I can't even hold this book up anymore. My arms are tired. I am physically, mentally, and emotionally exhausted by this book. To mention some positives, I thought that again, there were a lot of really good ideas, that a lot of these themes really excited me, and I will be looking out and demanding them to be in books more. I want more queendoms. I want more people of color. I want magic. I want all of the things it was bringing forward. I will also say I would watch the hell out of a Priory of the Orange Tree movie. I think a lot of things could be streamlined. It would fit perfectly in like a 2.5 hour epic with dragons and lots of money just tossed at it and beautiful kingdoms and clothing. I would love for it to be a movie. I am looking forward to that movie. I don't know why this wasn't made a movie the moment it came out. Her concepts were really great and some of them were really well executed while other ones made it not worth the ride, which is why this isn't a 1-star, because I want to like it. I want people to do more things like this. I want her to continue on because I think maybe if she continues these stories, they'll gain more cohesion and more fluidity. I really am sorry that I spent so much time talking about this book that I can't even hold it up anymore. And I'm sorry that it took me a month and a half to read it because that was a lot of time that I could have been dedicating to some other books I'm really interested in, but I had to get this through. It was a goal for my spring goals list. It's been on my list of books I needed to finish. It was like an epic quest and I finally got to the end and I was like, wow, I'm glad that's over. All right, so with that rant finished, I would love to know what you think of Priory. Tell me I'm wrong. Give me some good bits. Remind me of the things that got lost in the fray of annoyance and despair. I would love to hear your thoughts on all of these books. Please go ahead and check my description box. It not only has links to several bits of information that are really important, but there is also petitions down below that we need to be signing. Make sure you are challenging yourself, and I hope you are enjoying the sun or more stars wherever you are. And until next time, bye! Oh boy, it was like ribs. I love the taste of ribs, but it's a lot of work and a lot of mess to get to the meat. This is so heavy. Along with his side chick. And then on top of it all, you get to the climax, you get to the moment, you try and make the moment worth it, and it came up short for me. The moment was short. It was good. It was a really good scene, but it was short. It was not long enough. It was not worth it enough. The meat was not tenderized and perfect enough. It just wasn't enough. Wasn't enough. And Kit, they did Kit dirty. There were some really cool character dynamics, but then they would do these things. And Kit was one of my favorite characters. You read the book. You tell me if that's okay. With a female director, because I am so tired of that shit. I need to stop. I need to breathe. I need to go out into the sun.